Hello sport fans, welcome to Sports Watch on Alive News, where we bring you the latest sports stories. I am Amarachi Odinaka. Well, coming up today, we wrap up an unforgettable 2026 FIFA World Cup. Well, Spain were crowned the new world champions after defeating defending champions Argentina to claim their second FIFA World Cup title. Well, with the tournament now over, FIFA has unveiled its official 2026 FIFA World Cup team of the tournament, and we'll take a closer look at the players named in the final best 11 today on the show. We'll also head to Scotland for the 2026 Commonwealth Games, where Team Nigeria will be competing across several sports. And later on the show, our focus will shift to women's football as the Super Falcons continue their preparations for the 2026 Women's Africa Cup of Nations. The tournament will kick off tomorrow in Morocco, July 25th, and it will run through to August 16th. Well, those are the top stories making the headlines in sports today. We'll take a short break, and when we return, we'll be joined by a sports journalist, analyst, and we'll dive right into the biggest talking points in sports. Stay with us. Welcome back to the show. Well, there's certainly a lot for us to reflect on as we look back at the biggest stories, the standout team, and defining moments at the 2026 FIFA World Cup, and also players who made this edition of the World Cup one to remember. Well, joining me now in the studio to break down the major talking points from the just concluded 2026 FIFA World Cup is a sports journalist and analyst, Michael Adebile. Michael, thank you for joining us on the show.
It's a pleasure to be here. We finally made this happen.
It's a pleasure to have you on the show today. I love your outfits.
Thank you. You're not looking bad as well.
Okay, thank you. So let's dive right, into the conversations we have today on the World Cup. Over the weekend, it's almost 1 week now where we saw Spain become the champions and defeat, Argentina. How would you assess the overall performance of Spain from the group stage, to the final where they faced Argentina?
I think it's the normal Spain style, tiki-taka, but it's just that in this tournament they found a way to put some defensive prowess into it. We've always known Spain to be that team that's always going to keep possession of the ball. They're always going to take control of the ball. But in this tournament, one thing that they eventually put into their game that made sure that they were very bigger than all of the other teams was how solid they were defensively. They only considered just one goal in all of the 8 games in this tournament, and that's something that's really, really impressive. Unai Simon, as well as the defenders, Pau Kubasi, Emerick Laporte, and all of those guys, Pedro Porro, Marco Correa. I mean, so they were really a solid side. Before now, Spain have always been a tiki-taka side, right? They were always going to tap you, they're always going to do the tiki-taka, but it didn't work for them a lot of times because of how fragile they were on the back foot. You could always just catch them on the counter. Once you count them on the counter, transition mode, you're always going to be able to defeat them. But in this tournament, they put a stop to that, and that's due to the intelligence and brilliance of somebody like Rodri. We also saw in the game against France, where they brought in Fabian Ruiz for all of his technicalities and his physicalities as well, to be able to come into the side and stop the transition of the likes of Mbappe, the likes of Michael Olise, and some of these guys. So I feel like Spain had their possession, their identity of being a Spanish side that was going to pass the ball. But in this tournament, they were also defensively solid, and this is one of the reasons, the core reason why they actually won the World Cup.
Okay, you said something. I was going to ask you, when the conversation goes, furthermore about Rodri. But you mentioned Rodri, now. So let me ask you, Rodri was awarded, the Golden Ball, and it has caused a lot of conversations and speculations on the media as against, Lionel Messi, who had 8 goals in the tournament. Yeah. To you now, do you think Rodri deserves that Golden Ball more than Lionel Messi?
I think the question to ask is, does Rodri not deserve the Golden Ball? I mean, there's a couple of players that have a very big shout for Golden Ball. Golden Ball could go to any of the players. But if you start to diminish what Rodri adds to the Spanish side, then it becomes an dishonest conversation, right? I know we're all for the flashiness, we're all for the brilliance, we're all for the genius of Lionel Messi, where he adds goals and assists and all of those kind of things. But I think it's going to be a very big injustice if you look at Rodri and look at what the Spanish side accomplished in this tournament and see who was the mastermind of it and not give it to Rodri, right? Because in this tournament, Rodri played all minutes. He played all of the games for Spain. And for a team that was based on control, right, you have to give it to the orchestrator of the team. He was the captain of the side, he was the orchestrator. Everything went through him, both offensively and defensively.
Well, I'm sorry to cut it short,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
Because from your conversation now, you
Yeah.
said something, and
Yeah.
I want to talk about that.
Yeah.
You said Messi's flashiness. So you think Messi's, performance at the World Cup and the way we saw even the
I think
president,
at the end of the day, okay.
the president
Go ahead.
of the United States even went to an interview where he talked about Messi's assist in that England game. It shows how much Messi performed at this World Cup. And now you said the flashiness of Lionel Messi. Do you think
I'm not saying it's
live up
not
to
just
the
flashy.
expectation
I
that
just feel
people-
like as a sport,
Yes.
as a game, we have moved so much towards rewarding goals and assists so much that sometimes we always put a very big injustice on defenders, goalkeepers, and some of these players. Take, for instance, the just concluded English Premier League season, right? People are clamoring for a Bruno Fernandes to be awarded the PFA Player of the Year because he had 21 assists. Nobody's making claims for a Gabriel or a David Raya, right? So this is how football has evolved over the years. People are more in tune with people that score the goals, people that put the ball in the back of the net. Fine, Lionel Messi was outstanding. I mean, one of the greatest of all time, obviously. He had a very amazing tournament, even at 39 years old, right? But I feel like it's going to be a great injustice to me, as well as to midfielders and defenders, if what Rodri did in this World Cup went unnoticed. Don't also forget that they won the tournament, right? So winning the tournament also counts for something. I'm very sure that if Argentina had gone on to win the tournament, it was definitely always going to be Messi winning the golden ball and all of those kind of things. But I feel at the end of the day, if you look at a team that wins the tournament, right? They won the tournament. That's fine. That's one. Two, who is the standout player in this team? Who made them tick? Who's that player that offensively, defensively, they were very solid? So I think it's Rodri. And at the end of the day, Lionel Messi deserves it, but you cannot say Rodri does not deserve it as well. So that's where I'm coming from, right? So it could have been either of both parties. Like, if Messi had won it, I don't think anybody would have batted an eye. So I think nobody should also...
If Messi had won it over Rodri, would you... Because not everybody, would you...
No, I'll not have batted an eye. It would have been well-deserved. I mean, for eight goals and assists, 8 goals and also more assists, 5 assists, or I think 4 assists, and leading Argentina to those many comebacks. Don't forget that in so many of the games, Argentina were always behind, right? Argentina were not a very very spectacular team. They just had the aggressiveness, they had the physicality and all those kind of things. So Messi, obviously, as the captain of the side, led them to numerous comebacks. But if you're talking about convincing performances from a team as a whole, Spain, let's also put into consideration the quality of opponents that they faced, right? Argentina en route to get into the final faced off with teams like Cape Verde, teams like Egypt, teams like Switzerland, and then England in the semi-finals. Don't forget that in this tournament, Spain have had to face Uruguay, they've had to defeat Portugal, they've had to defeat France, are en route to get into the final. And in all of these games, they didn't look like they were breaking a sweat. Do you know how much control your midfield has to have for you to be able to not break a sweat against the likes of Portugal, against the demonic team of France? So I feel like if you look at it on a scale of tougher opponents, more impacts, and all of those kind of things, you cannot say Rodri does not deserve the golden ball. And that's where I stand.
Okay. I love your take on this, right? It's quite insightful. Now we've talked about this, the quality of the Spanish squad. One thing about the Spanish squad is that we know that they have young players. And looking at the final, Argentina had more of experienced players than the young players. Where do you think Argentina, because aside from, we've seen, tournaments where teams who had young players still get defeated by teams that had experienced players. We saw that in the WAFCON final between Nigeria and
between Senegal and Morocco.
No, not even the Senegal. The
semi-final.
No, not the 2023 WAFCON
Ivory Coast,
between Ivory Coast and
Nigeria.
And we saw how that turned out for the team, experienced players versus young legs, and how that happened. But then in this tournament, where do you think Argentina fell short? Because Argentina is, despite, experienced players coming as defending champions, people expected, Argentina to at least, fight. Let's see that zeal in win. We saw how that final, turned out. It was unexpected from the Argentine team. Where do you think, Argentina got it wrong? And where do you think they fell short in that final?
I'm going to be very honest with you, right? Take away the only reason why people were rooting for Argentina or felt like Argentina could do something in this tournament was because of Lionel Messi. Argentina were a disaster in waiting if you watch their games, right?
Wow.
Yes, because how do you explain struggling against a Cape Verde and taking them into extra time?
Cape Verde had a beautiful
it doesn't matter. It still doesn't mean they're a top-ranked team. If you're a team that wants to win convincingly, you don't struggle with Cape Verde. Cape Verde are making their first World Cup appearance in how many years, right? They have a 40-year-old goalkeeper, right? They had to fight into the extra time to defeat Cape Verde. Against Egypt, they had to come back from 2-0 down to win against that one. So Argentina were not. I think it would have been a great injustice if Argentina won this tournament.
So you think they were just lucky?
They were not luck, right? They just had the ingenuity, the genius of Lionel Messi, and they also have the fight. Don't take away anything. If it's a South American team, you're always going to have energy, you're always going to have aggressiveness, you're always going to have the fight. So I think that worked for them. But how long was it going to work for them against a team that was always going to keep possession? The moment you should have known that Argentina were going to lose the final was Spain versus France. The moment I saw the way Spain went into that game against France, because France are very similar to Argentina, right?
Yes.
They rely on transitions, they rely on energy, they rely on running, they rely on all of those kind of things, right? But the moment I saw the tactics that Spain came into the game against France with, they knew they didn't have the strength. They knew they didn't have the man-for-man power. What did they rely on? You don't even have to touch me, right? Spain did not give the chance or the gap for physical combat in that game, even against France and even against Argentina, right? There was no point where Paredes could come and jam you or Molina to come and jam you.
They were not looking like they were hungry for it.
They were not giving you that chance to come and go physical on them. I'm talking about Spain, right? So the moment you saw the game, Spain versus France, you could as well just tell what the final was going to be because of the profile of the teams that were involved, right? So Argentina does not have that technical level. What they have is fight. What they have is energy. What they have is transition. What they have is Messi. While on the side of Spain, they had understanding of the game. They knew how to use the space to their advantage. They knew how to play football properly in a way that you cannot aggressively tackle them. So I feel like that was where Spain won it. What went wrong for Argentina? I saw in the news yesterday where I think it was Sergio Aguero that came out to say that Messi had a quarrel with Lionel Scaloni at the end of the game because of the tactics and how they went into the game. So I feel like maybe they also got it wrong tactically because they were waiting to sit and then hit them on the counter. And you know how that went. In 120 minutes, they had zero shots on target or even zero shot at all. The 2 shots that they eventually had was not on target and it came in the extra time of the extra time. Right, so it was a disaster for them tactically, and I think on that day they were just not it. Spain were just the better team overall.
Okay, talking about Spain being the better team and all of that, it's agreeable. We all watched the final, but there's something you mentioned also about Lionel Messi and the back and forth with the coach after. One thing that's been a major conversation, in this edition of the World Cup is the decision with refereeing. It's been speculations. Firstly, it started with conversations saying Argentina are being favored by referees, and now I'll bring it down. Now the third place between England and France. They said they allowed England just win it. France allowed England to win it.
No, that's not true.
I'm just saying the speculations from France down to the final. France allowed England to win it because of the issue with Argentina, where Argentina raised a flag. Something related to policy. I wouldn't want to, really go into that because that's like much of a broader, conversation. And then in the final, after the final, videos on TikTok, all over social media, on a meeting before a halftime meeting, a meeting in the dressing room. A meeting in the dressing room.
My life.
No, relax. A meeting in the dressing room before the final kicked off, and speculations that Argentina were asked to forfeit, the final and let Spain win. Wait, I'm coming.
All right.
No, to you now. It's still on the refereeing. Do you think that this tournament had standard refereeing, or some teams were favored, as against other teams?
I think you could not make bold claims. All you have is fact. All you should work with is fact. And facts would tell you that Argentina had the most fouls with the fewest yellow cards in this World Cup, which is fact, right? And also going by the manner of the decisions that went in their favor at the last World Cup, going into this World Cup, you can as well not blame people that have things to say, right? For example, there are penalties that were gotten in Qatar in 2022. For example, the one against Poland, where the goalkeeper went for the ball and just hit Messi and it was a penalty, and so many complaints that have gone on. Now we've come into this tournament as well. The foul by Messi in the Algeria game on the studs of the player went unpunished, even if I didn't think it was a red card, but I think it was what, a yellow card, or at least some warning. So, I mean, I feel like this whole thing is coming off the back of how much the referees have allowed Argentina to get away with.
So now, you know, that's the
wait,
point again.
chill.
If you mention Argentina now,
there's a lot of things that they've had to get away with.
Okay.
And I think where the conspiracy has come from is the fact that we've also publicly seen the FIFA president come out to say, oh, he suffered with Argentina in a game where they were struggling to defeat Cape Verde, and then said, oh, I'm neutral and all those kind of things. So it is this sort of public statement and careless statements and then coupled with what we now see on the field of play, where Argentina have conducted themselves in a very aggressive manner. I think they've been very classless in this tournament, and they've had the highest number of fouls without yellow card, as I've said before. And also their level when it comes to aggressiveness in this tournament has been one that has been unpunished. And I think that's where people are getting these things from, right? A normal person would not get away with the fouls that Argentina have gotten away with. And I'm very serious with you.
So your conclusion, you're saying
I'm concluding that
favored.
Yes. And it's not wrong to say so. They have Lionel Messi, right? Teams that have senior players, Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi, some of these people get favors from referees.
Yes.
And it's as simple as that. If you see Lionel Messi coming to you as a referee to challenge your decision, there's a different level of respect than when it's Harry Kane. And I'm not even going to lie to you. There's a different level of respect when it's Cristiano Ronaldo and some of these other friends. And also, let's not act ignorant that there is no politics in football or there's no the business side of football. For example, when Cristiano Ronaldo and the USA went out in the quarterfinals, tickets fell by approximately 60% of prices. So some of these decisions are also business-wise. It's not conspiracy. It's normal business. We work in sports. We know how some of these things work. So I don't think it's out of place to say that they might have gotten some favors to help them. But I feel like the whole thing about the final is ridiculous, right? Emi Martinez got 11 saves in the final of the World Cup, right? You cannot tell me they were set to lose and Emi Martinez is making 11 saves in the World Cup final. They tried to score in the extra time.
Yes, they did.
Right? They tried to score. Messi tried to get Cucurella sent off after
let's be honest.
Enzo Fernandez,
okay,
after Enzo Fernandez got knocked out, right? So these are not signs that are attached to a game that has been set to be lost. It's not possible, right?
So I think it wasn't fixed.
It's a final it's not possible to say you fix a final. If you're fixing a final, why are you not conceding 5? Why are you getting to extra time before you lose, right? I think that Messi fans and Argentina fans have not been able to digest how one-sided that final was, that they have now resulted into all sorts of conspiracies to say, oh, we were set to lose, we were set to this, we were set to that. Personally, I still feel pity for Argentina, and I'm expecting the news. I'm expecting the news because I feel like something that might have gone down in the dressing room truly, right? I'm hoping it's not what I think, because I don't want to wish death on anyone, but I'm just hoping that maybe Messi's father has not passed or something, because to be honest...
So you think it's beyond the
conversation
about
it's not about the Falkland
Argentina.
Islands, it's something different, right? There's also been speculations about the fact that there was a fight in the dressing room before the final, about Lautaro Martinez fighting with Lionel Scaloni and talking to him about Messi, because
we saw him crying, he didn't even get to play
he didn't start and he didn't even get any chance. So the speculations might also be true. We heard that Lautaro Martinez had a fight in the dressing room before that, accusing them of favoritism towards Julian Alvarez because of him not starting. So there's a whole lot that could be going on. Somebody can have lost somebody and all those kind of things. But you saw the whole speculation about the final being said to give the final because of the Falkland Islands, the banner. Come on, all of that were put to rest before the final already.
So whatever the results from this final,
it was one-sided.
It was meant to be.
It was very one-sided. Yeah.
Okay, moving on, we've talked about Spain and Argentina. We've talked about the the finals in general. Now FIFA has released the official best 11 at the tournament. Now to you, in this list we have Lionel Messi, we have Rodri. We just talked about Rodri. Now we have Bellingham. We have Kylian Mbappe. To you, this particular list, what's your assessment of this best 11 released team of the tournament?
I think I agree up to a very large extent. I agree 80%. to the choices. My choices, my disagreement would come in the defense and the goalkeeping position. So let's start from the forward line. Mbappe, obviously, highest scorer ever in World Cup history, won the Golden Boot, deserves his place. Haaland was also favoured ahead of Kane, even though they had 6 goals each. But I favour Haaland because this is his first tournament in 28 years, scored 6 goals, defeated Brazil, 2 goals against Brazil, pulled his nation, right, a less fancied side, as you would like to say it in the tournament, right? Messi is Messi, obviously, had a very fantastic tournament, so should be there. In midfield, obviously, Rodri, Golden Ball, considered just 1 goal, they won the tournament. Jude Bellingham had the highest number of goals for a midfielder in this World Cup. Also, is now currently in the 1 to 5 list of highest goal scorers for England ever at the World Cup. So obviously deserves his chance. Michael Olise, first World Cup, 6 assists, had the highest number of assists as well, slotted in so well with that team. So in the defense, obviously, Pedro Porro, Marco Cucurella as well. My problem now is in the centre-back pairing of Dayo Upamecano and Martinez.
So
I do not agree with that pairing because Pau Kubasi, right, was spectacular in this tournament. They considered just 1 goal en route to the final. While how is a Martinez that considered 2 to Cape Verde, that considered 2 to Egypt, that considered to, I think they considered to Switzerland as well. In the semi-finals, they're going against England, they considered as well, and all those kind of things. How is he getting into the team of the tournament ahead of a Pau Kubasi?
But he had goals.
Ooh. Doesn't matter. I think your primary duty as a defender is to defend. So if you play 8 games and you have seven clean sheets, there's nobody as a defender, whatever it is that they achieve in the tournament, they're supposed to get in ahead of you, right? So Pau Kubasi obviously should be there. Emerick Laporte should also be there, but I can still put a claim for Upamecano, right? So I think my centre-back pairing is Dayo Upamecano and Pau Kubasi. There is no world in which you have a team of the tournament in this World Cup and Pau Kubasi at 19, keeping quiet France, keeping quiet Kylian Mbappe, keeping quiet Cristiano Ronaldo, keeping them to just 2 shots on target, and that kind of thing. And you tell me it's Martinez that is your centre-back in the distance. So, and then the goalkeeper as well, Unai Simon, obviously. I think these things are straight up. They are not up for debates. They are not up for discussions. This is not I understand the fairy tale story. And I think this is what FIFA is trying to do with the Vozinha thing. 40 years of age, made 8 saves in that game against Spain and all those kind of things. They are trying to put him and introduce him as a role model or as an ambassador, right, for Cape Verde in FIFA. It's the face of their campaign and all those kind of things. So I understand all of that. But I think it's criminal not to put the Golden Glove winner into the team of the tournament. So yes, those are my only concerns, right? Remove Martinez, put in Pau Kubasi, remove Vozinha, put in Unai Simon, and I'm good with that.
But Vozinha is literally the only African, player in that.
I'm not biased to Africa. Okay. If you want to get to the team of the tournament, you have to perform that much.
Interesting.
This World Cup.
Okay, Michael, quickly before we wrap up the show on the conversations on the World Cup, 2030 World Cup is coming, and we know Nigeria has not qualified for the past 2 editions of the World Cup. What should Nigeria do differently, starting from now, to make sure we qualify for the next edition in the next 4 years?
I think the NFF has shown faith. I feel like we have shown faith. First off, this is still 2026. We never can tell what is still going to happen. But if we are showing faith, we have to keep our faith. The last World Cup are not qualifying as a result of
This is ANN.
Managers handle our World Cup campaign. Right, we had Finidi George, we had Pesero. Yes, we had Pesero come from the 2023 AFCON, and then eventually Finidi George, and eventually before we now got Eric Chell, who did his best. So we have to keep our coach. How far we're still going to be able to do that? The qualifiers will start in 2028, I think. We have to keep Eric Chell, we have to keep our players fit, scout more players that can all of this, and if we keep our team together, definitely we can qualify for the World Cup. Okay,
thank you so much. It's been, insightful so far, having conversations with you on, the World Cup. That's the wrap up on our conversations of the FIFA 2026 FIFA World Cup. Congratulations once again to the new champion Spain. We'll take a breather now. When we return, we'll shift our focus to the ongoing 2026 Commonwealth Games in Scotland, where Team Nigeria joins more than 3,000 athletes in the battle for medals across several events. Well, we'll dive into the conversations after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back to the show. Now to the ongoing 2026 Commonwealth Games in Scotland, where the team Nigeria will be representing the nation in 10 different sporting events at that competition. Well, still in the studio with me, I have sports journalist and analyst Michael Adebile in the studio with me. Thank you for staying with me on the show.
It's a pleasure, Mara.
How you feeling?
Enjoying the show so far. Back and forth on the World Cup, and I can't wait to continue the show.
Okay. Well, now we're, away from football, we're now to the Commonwealth Games. How would you rate Nigeria's chances, the team Nigeria's chances at this edition of the Commonwealth?
I think we've got pretty good chances, especially when it comes to the Commonwealth. I think when it's in the Olympics, we always struggle to get medals, and just the regulars, the likes of Toby Amuson, the likes of S.A. Brumoy. But I think when we come home, when it comes to just teams participating in Commonwealth, we always have a very great chance. We've always performed so well in Commonwealth Games, and we're coming into this tournament, to this competition as well, into these games with great spirits as well as great hopes. Just a few days ago, Koinsola Ajayi, who's participating in the 100-meter, defeated Oblique Seville in the diamond race, and I mean, this is a medal hopeful for us. It's broken the national record, I think, 2 times. There's also Favor Ashe somewhere there in the mix. So like the regular guys are always going to represent us well. It's a Brumery long job. Now you have the Koinsola Ajayi, you have Favor Ashe, then also there's Tobiloba Amusan, obviously would be aiming to win gold in the 100-meter or women's hurdles. So, I mean, there's also paralifters that are always performing so well for us in games, even at the Olympics. They're always medal hopefuls. And with the way the National Sports Commission has packaged all of this, I think I've seen their camp, I've seen pictures, I've seen images, I've seen how branded they are. I think there's a bit of intentionality towards the preparation for this one. I've also heard that they've, released some money to them. We hope and pray that there's not so much controversy this time around, because the hype going into this tournament is so much big already. I've also seen the outfits, well designed, very, very fine designs and all those kind of things. So we're wishing them the very best of luck. I've also seen a couple of sport journalists. I've also been there. I mean, the duo of Adepo Joganla as well as Puja traveled from the World Cup, and they've landed in Scotland as well, straight up to cover Team Nigeria there. So they are not going to be lacking in coverage, and Nigerians will be supporting them as well, especially with what we've seen recently of Toby Amuson as well as Koinsola Ajayi. I'm really hopeful for that boy. He's really shaking the athletics world. For people that follow athletics, Koinsola Ajayi is one name that we're really looking forward to seeing at this Commonwealth Games. Oh, interesting. Well, we hope to see, the turnouts of the Commonwealth. Beautiful words from you, and I loved how you got to analyze these games. But quickly before we wrap up the show today, the WAFCON kicks off tomorrow, and Team Nigeria will be competing. The Super Falcons will be competing in that tournament, and they'll be looking to defend their title. How prepared do you think the Super Falcons are going into this game? I think we're always going to be prepared. There's no WAFCON tournament that has ever held from the beginning of time to date that Nigeria will not be expected as favorites. So that's some kind of pressure going into every tournament, because to have won it 10 times, 12 if you count the 2 that were cancelled, you're obviously always going to have a target on your back, especially with what we both witnessed in the WAFCON last year. We were both there in Rabat last year when we went from 2-0 down to defeat the host Morocco by 3-2 in the second half. So if you're coming back to that same country off the back of what you did last time, best believe that there's a lot of target on your back. And for the very first time ever, we're also moving from 12 teams to 16 teams. So it's tougher. And it's not just tougher because you are going to win the WAFCON. It's also tougher because of the fact that this also serves as a qualifier for the World Cup next year, right? The FIFA Women's World Cup 2027 this serves as the representative. This serves as the qualifier
the 4 semi-finalists
for the 4 semi-finalists, from Africa. There's also 2 that's going to be qualifying through the playoffs and all of that, but you don't want to be put in that kind of position. We saw how that went for the Super Eagles when we didn't qualify for the World Cup. We tried to use the playoff rounds, and then we lost against DR Congo in the semi-final. You never know what to expect in knockout games like that. So the safest bet is to qualify, right? And I'm very sure that with the kind of young talents that we have, a mixture of experience and usefulness that we have, they knew what is at stake at this point. Everybody wants to play in the World Cup. The World Cup is the pinnacle of football for both male and female. So this WAFCON holds a more special place in the hearts of people. This is not the WAFCON where you want to come and flop, right? We also saw a friendly game between Nigerian Super Falcons and Tanzania yesterday, where Esther Okoronkwo continued and Rashidat Ajibade scored to come back. I mean, she continued her fine form. I was watching the highlights of that final once again. I think CAF uploaded it yesterday, and I still feel the goosebumps that I felt in that final watching from pitch side, because that comeback was really good. Esther scored 1 and assisted 2 goals in that comeback against Morocco. So, and of the 25 players that went the last year, I think we still have 19 of that. So it means that we still have a core fact of that. So there's a mixture of the experience and the usefulness. I think the only credible missing name from this would be Ashley Plumter, who is recovering from injury. She put out a statement that she suffered injury in March and she's yet to recover. But I think the likes of Monday Gifts, I'm very excited that Monday will be part of this tournament and all of those kind of things. So we still have the team that can go ahead to pull surprises and win in this tournament.
Quickly before we wrap up the show, tell me, Michael, with these 4 semi-finalist teams that are going to get automatic qualifications. I know where where I'm going to. These semi-finalist teams that are going to get automatic qualification for the 2027 World Cup, Women's World Cup in Brazil from this WAFCON. Which 4 teams do you see? Do you expect to pick up that ticket?
I think going by history, going by pedigree, going by the teams that you expect that will always pull up a show, I think it's also even straightforward. I'm going to go with the semi-finalists from the last WAFCON. It's going to be as simple as that, I think, except there's an upset. I'm expecting that the 4 semi-finalists from last WAFCON will take this ticket, and that's Nigeria, Morocco, South Africa. So Nigeria, Morocco are host, Nigeria 10-time champions. South Africa were the last winners in 2022, so that's 3 teams. Zambia have one of the toughest teams, right? Zambia have one of the toughest teams, but there's also Ghana somewhere in the mix. So that's what makes it very exciting. But I think 5 of these teams, 4 of them will pick the tickets to the World Cup.
It's been amazing so far on the show, and I hope to have you some other time on the show. And thank you for joining us today, Michael. Well, it's been exciting to have sports journalist and analyst Michael Adebile join us on the show today. We also wish the Super Falcons the very best as they begin their campaign at the 2026 Women's Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco. We also hope that they successfully defend their title and secures one of Africa's qualification spots for the 2027 FIFA Women's World Cup in Brazil. But that's where we wrap up the show today on Sports Watch. Thank you for staying with us. I am Amarachi Odinaka for Alive News. Do have a wonderful day.
This is ANN.